Here is IGN's Lords of the Fallen review. We've been watching so much on Lords of the Fallen.
Don't succeed, try again. While 2014's Lords of the Fallen was one of the earliest to take a stab at recreating From Software's Lightning in a Bottle, it didn't quite hit.
Now, I haven't played this one.
Nearly a decade and about a million.
I hadn't played the original one.
There's perhaps
this one looks great.
For its follow-up to take
Good night, last
swipe. And thankfully, this new Lords of the Fallen confidently lands its strike. Its dual world is absolutely awesome to explore. Build crafting is diverse and complex, and combat is so smooth and satisfying that I'm willing to forgive all the ways it cribs from its contemporaries. Some pretty severe performance issues and bugs, as well as disappointingly easy boss fights, means this latest thrust isn't quite a fatal blow, but even so,
it's still a step in the right direction.
Many more hours impaling enemies and exploring every nook of its cleverly split world.
It does look good. It looks awesome. I don't know. I want to see what Travis has to say over here. Travis Northup.
Complete with an unsettling fantasy setting, other players invading your game, and of course, lots of dying.
Of course. Always with the dying. Wonderful.
A lot is borrowed from FromSoft classics, but there's also quite a bit of unique stuff to get excited about too. That includes things like some super cool dual reality shenanigans, or a nifty magical lamp that lets you flay the souls right out of your enemies.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like that. Soul plays.
Those who played the original Lords of the Fallen will definitely hear NPCs talk about some familiar setting lore.
The time of Adir's righteous return is nigh.
Or see really cool and recognizable sights like this giant outstretched hand of a fallen god in the distance. But this is essentially a reboot rather than a sequel.
Oh, it's a reboot. Cool. All right.
Refurbished bits is much better than its predecessor too, with a world that feels much more fleshed out. There's some interesting characters here and there, and some cool lore as you meet various factions that you can side with or work against.
You know full well the agony Gerlinda can inflict on you.
Even if that stuff sometimes feels buried under a mountain of generic dark fantasy gobbledygook. Though Lords of the Fallen certainly borrows a lot from its genre peers in this way, its biggest original idea is also its best. Axiom, the physical land most people perceive, lies atop this ghostly world of dark abominations and creepy eyeballs called Umbral, which you can swap to using a magic lantern. As you run around killing bosses and kicking scrubs off of ledges, you'll need to navigate both, which adds a really novel new way to explore the environment. For example, a broken bridge might block your progress in the normal world, but be crossable in Umbral.
Yeah, well, we already know all that.
Impact on nearly every aspect of Lords of the Fallen, from combat where normally imperceivable enemies become a major threat when you enter Umbral, to exploration, since each area essentially has two versions, warranting multiple runs of the same
that's
section
kind of crazy.
to see what you missed.
It'll take plenty of time.
It's a shame, though, that Lords of the Fallen doesn't quite seem capable of supporting its cross-dimensional ambitions from a technical standpoint, as it suffers from some pretty serious performance issues. Even with my GeForce RTX 4090 GPU,
4090, damn, good job, bro.
DX3D CPU, I encountered stuttering and dropped frames on a
I can see it.
Especially after prolonged sessions, and those problems were shared in some form or another by everyone I played with. It's especially frustrating when lost frames lead to taking hits I otherwise may have avoided. Or when my co-op partners got killed after
I'm sure those bug fixes, you know, they'll fix those. Yikes.
I'm not usually one to whinge about performance benchmarks or less than perfect frame rates, but these were so consistent and impossible to
I can tell, I can see
it.
it
was like eating a delicious meal with a severe toothache.
Yikes. That's a good analogy,
Lords
bro.
of the Fallen's otherwise lovely areas are still a ton of fun to explore when its frame rate manages to behave. From the fiery ashes of the city of Kalrath to the treacherous steps of a monastery in the mountains. Level design is some of the best of the genre in recent memory, with interesting and often breathtaking environments, tons of secrets to discover,
Nice.
and loads of unique enemies to fight.
Hell yeah.
Introduced one at a time via mini
The
boss
Ruiner.
fights throughout the roughly 40-hour campaign.
40 hours. Okay. Roughly 40 hours. That means it's gonna take like 80 for me.
Skeletal Abominations is a lively whirlwind of
Gonna be like 8 days
being
straight.
swung and parried, making it play more smoothly than the vast majority of its peers, even if that dance feels extremely conventional at this point.
Nice.
Ronnie Bruiser wielding the all-reliable sword and board, this
Okay.
quick and precise Bloodborne dude, or a variety of ranged magic users
I wanna-
cool but by the numbers abilities,
The Pirate
offering elements of
Cultist.
fire and
That's
lava,
kinda cool.
or blessing you and your allies with health regenerating effects.
It's kind of cool
It's
too.
also great that many of the areas you'll fight your way through are legitimately challenging, often filled with elite enemies who swarm you with devastating attacks in claustrophobic environments.
I'm gonna
and
end up
numerous
dying a
ways to
bunch.
Get yourself killed.
Yep.
Really, the only issue is that enemies are as dumb as a bag of hair, which isn't exactly a unique problem in the genre,
Yeah.
but it's always amusing to see these morons try to figure out how to navigate the world's geometry,
Yeah,
only to
for
stand
real.
in place as you stab them repeatedly.
Yeah.
Not content with just being awesome for exploration, your magical lamp and its relationship to the parallel Umbral realm is also quite useful in combat, primarily because you can use its Soul Flay ability to rip out an enemy's
Yeah.
soul, stopping them in their tracks and providing ample time to dish out damage. Also, some enemies will have supernatural resistance that makes them nigh invincible, the only remedy being using your lamp to cast light on nearby hidden eyeballs to strip them of that protection. Finding ways
Oh,
to play
okay.
with the dual reality swapping during combat really drives home just how dope that mechanic is.
Yeah, it's very cool. What's up, Wes? Souls like a boss.
Obviously, no Souls-like would be complete without epic boss fights against disgusting monstrosities, and Lords of the Fallen has some cool ones.
What, next week?
Unfortunately, unlike the levels preceding them, they're not very challenging at all. Every boss comes at you with slow and telegraphed moves, surprisingly reasonable health bars, and plenty of breaks in the
But
action
wait,
to
for
keep
what?
up, thanks to the simple AI, making death a pretty rare.
Oh, because you
occurrence
hit
against
level
them.
7. I got you. Yeah.
Still,
I forgot you hit level
take
7.
on
I got you.
enormous beasts,
So next
despite
week,
being
I got you.
pushovers, But even some of the more unique fights seem subpar compared to the bar set by recent Souls-likes.
Okay. I mean, it's still
Just a
nice, you
sizable
know?
layer of jank around this otherwise awesome package. I saw a few game crashes, had cool combat encounters ruined when enemies got stuck helplessly in the environment,
Yeah.
was locked out of certain button commands like blocking for stretches of time, and more.
Ooh,
Sometimes Lords of
that's
the
not a
Fallen
good
has
one.
original Dark Souls energy in a pretty unflattering way. Playing with a
Oof.
friend can make some of those rough edges even more noticeable, since it introduces
Of course it
other
is.
questionable quirks, like how co-op partners are tethered to the host and get teleported if they stray too far, which is accompanied
Really?
by a loading screen. But those loading screens often take just long enough for the host to have traveled out of sight again by the time you load back in,
Ah.
leading to yet
Another loading screen. Oh no.
Friend is still a good time, and what I've played of New Game Plus so far has me and my squad quite excited to go back through some of the areas and enemies, with new lore, a whole new skill tree to experiment with, and of course, more difficult baddies to slay. That increased difficulty hasn't made any of the boss fights very challenging yet, which is a bummer, but the stretches between them are worth it on their own.
Verdict. What is it gonna rate? What is it gonna rate it?
Fallen is a great Souls-like, and its killer new idea of swapping between two versions of the world to solve puzzles and slay enemies is an excellent twist to set it apart from the pack. That concept is unfortunately hamstrung a bit by numerous, highly annoying technical challenges and weak boss fights. But awesome explorable areas and fantastic build crafting more than make up for those shortcomings. If, like me, you're a sucker for a quality action RPG, even amid a clear
Got an 8.
abundance of them,
Gave it an
this
8.
reboot is
It's
well
still
worth
good.
the time.
Still
For
very
more,
good.
Check out our reviews of Forza Motorsport and Assassin's Creed Mirage.
I still gave it an 8.
Anything else, Stick with
IGN and Ninja, who watches IGN. And IGN, hit me up, bro. Where you at? That was the Lords of the Fallen review. I'm still gonna play it. It looks awesome. And he gave it an 8. It's great.